All right, Stochastic, here we go. It's your old pal EMac. We have all sorts of NBA to cover today. I'm joined by Adam Scherer. I'm trying to find a good virtual background that makes it so my hair doesn't disappear and make me look completely bald. But I'm mostly bald, so it really doesn't matter. Not quite Eitan Chandler bald, but I don't have the great head of hair like most of my co-hosts. Adam, how are you doing today?
I am doing well. Didn't go out last night, so not running it back. Yeah, not running it back like the old school Adam and EMac shows, but yeah, feeling good.
This is very, very, very sad. I'm all responsible. I wrote up my Saturday NFL article, currently on the homepage for free right now over there at Stochastic, and then watched some basketball. It was very disappointing. The Wizards and Golden State game, nobody really played over 30 minutes, if I remember correctly. So nothing exciting there. We did get to see a whole bunch of people get angry about Dallas underperforming. Guys, there is a certain tipping point where there isn't enough talent to compete, especially when you look at a team like Houston, which won 7th best defensive rating over the last 10 games, and 2 has actually been competent this year. And even they were just joking around with that game. What I think they had somebody play 27 minutes, and that was it. So it was quite the laugher, and people got mad and such. I said, you know what you got to do? You got to be like me. Got to read those that wager of the day in the free Building Blocks article. I said bet the under on the Fred VanVleet PRA. I knew he wasn't going to get out there for enough minutes, and even if he did, he was going to be distributing the ball. So where there's exciting spots, and we like to root for overs, we can also look at unders. Guys, we can also look at unders. We are sponsored today by Underdog. You screwed up my segue there. We're sponsored today by Underdog Fantasy. More about them in a moment. Adam, what were you going to say here that was going to change the world?
Oh, no, I was just going to say that that game screwed me from a DFS standpoint, but betting the under Tim Hardaway points worked out.
Yes. So we gotta find the action where we can. We have 10 games today. There are 13 on the docket. How is that working? Well, there's 2 early games, and then both DraftKings and FanDuel have chopped off that lone outpost game, the 10 o'clock game. This actually makes sense because the 9th game of the slate, or I guess the 10th of the 11 games, tips off at 8:30, so it would be a 90-minute outpost game there. That's totally fine. I'm okay if they're going to do something like that, as long as they aren't creating like a 5-game slate into a 4-game slate to do.
Yeah, this is how I think they should do it. Like you already have 10 games. I don't need to sit around on Saturday night waiting for the 11th. But I hated just cutting 25% of the slate off the other day.
Yeah, that one didn't make sense because I would have been fine if they'd skipped the very last game, that 10 o'clock game, but they should have to cut the 9 and the 10 o'clock game. That was a little weird. But we'll see. Anything that keeps gamers playing and the ecosystem fresh, I'm all for. I think they should try some different things, but in fine fashion, they, being most DFS sites, seem to fumble more often than not when executing anything that's different.
Yeah, and that's the caveat too. Like I obviously complained a lot about them making this change in general, but if it actually does bring more players in and it allows them to grow contests and grow the prize pool, then I don't care what you do. Like I'll adjust and play those games. I just don't think it's going to have that impact, and I think it's also just going to make the product worse.
Yeah, and there have been some sports, including baseball, where we've seen them chop things up to just, in FanDuel in particular, chop things up to a bunch of ridiculous 2 and 3 game slates that are just pointless.
Right. That's always been my fear. And for the most part, it hasn't come to fruition since Showdown became a thing. But like my fear is always that the sites are going to kind of try and push and see how far they can get to just have more slates. And then now you have people like that play asking for that. It's like, this could go really poorly really quickly.
Right. So we shall see. In any event, let's jump on in here. We want to keep in mind that, of course, the Christmas Day games, that is 48 hours from now. But teams we have on today's slate that are playing on Christmas include Golden State, Denver, the Lakers, Dallas. I think that hits everybody. Okay, so let's jump on in, Adam. First game that we will be discussing is the Houston Rockets at the New Orleans Pelicans. The Rockets are 7-point underdogs. I'm going to go double check that. That seemed like a bit much, but 233.5 implied point total here for Houston. Tari Eason missed the last game with a sore leg. We'll see if he plays tonight. He was questionable going into that game, but was ruled out about an hour before tip-off. You have Houston, of course, in a back-to-back in a 3-4. They beat Dallas 122-96 last night. Smith played 31 minutes. Green played 37. Fred VanVleet played 26. On the other side, New Orleans has Zion Williamson questionable with an illness. He did miss a game. And then Zeller is dealing with a sore ankle. What do you like here in the battle of the Western Conference?
Yeah, so we'll have to keep an eye on the Tari Eason status. Missed yesterday, like you said. That does have an impact on Jabari Smith's minutes. He played 30.5 minutes yesterday in 3 quarters. We saw him play 21.5 minutes in the first half of that game. We saw him play huge minutes 2 games ago without Eason. It's the flip side of what I've been saying about Tari Eason on Deeper Dive shows recently is Tari Eason has, in the games where he's been healthy lately, he's played big minutes, but it's mostly been because Jabari Smith's in foul trouble or Eason plays well and Jabari Smith doesn't come back. They've been extremely negatively correlated in terms of their playing time. And what that means is that when Tari Eason is in, you kind of have to be cautious with both of them. They both still have upside, but they do cut into each other, and Jabari Smith now is getting expensive. But it also means that when Tari Eason is out, you can expect Jabari Smith to play huge minutes. At 7,500, I have no interest in him if Tari Eason is in. But if Eason's out, I think he's still a reasonable secondary option. But overall, nothing on this team really standing out. Fred VanVleet and Alperen Şengün are the only players right now on DraftKings getting 2% ownership. They're 3 and 2% to be optimal. So nothing standing out here. VanVleet and Şengün are the guys that I think you would get to first, but nothing that looks very good.
So slightly off topic, but sort of on topic, the illnesses that have been going around. We have seen multiple players miss close to a week. This feels like the precursor to, knocking on wood, I don't want to say it, 2020, when, everything was shut down for a while. Do you think this is just more the traditional NBA flu season, or is there something more out there? Not trying to get all political or whatever, but some of these illnesses, I mean, my God, Collins missed a week. It's shaping up like Mitchell's probably going to be out for a few more days. We're just seeing this across the league now.
Yeah, I mean, I assume it's just the regular flu. It's that time of year. They've been specifying non-COVID illness, and I don't think they're hiding that. So, I assume it's just flu season. I mean, these guys travel a lot. They, I'm sure, are out at clubs a good amount. It's a demographic that I would assume picks up the flu quite a bit.
Nothing a shot can't cure, I believe the great bard John Bon Jovi once sang. All right, from the New Orleans side, do you think Zion's in, and how do you want to approach this one?
Yeah, I mean, have him projected in for right now. Don't really know what else to do. Tough matchup here. Nothing really standing out. Joval at 7,300 looks like the most appealing piece right now. 11.5% chance of being optimal, 8% ownership. Cody Zeller is questionable. If he is out, that makes Joval look a little bit better. If him and Zion are both out, it certainly makes Joval look better. You should get more playing time, obviously more production without Zion as well. If Zion were to sit, it is going to pull up Brandon Ingram a bit. It'll open the door for, Trey Murphy, Najee Marshall to look a bit better as well. But really unappealing matchup. Very good defensive team in Houston. Very slow-paced Houston team. There's nothing really standing out from this game. Joval looks like the best piece overall at 7,300.
All right. See in chat, longtime viewer Mike Campbell says, hey, why'd they make the tournaments so bad today? There's a lot of things going on today. Last night and tonight are 2 of the biggest office holiday party nights, plus a lot of people are traveling. Plus we have 2 NFL games tonight. We have a huge college bowl slate going on today. A lot of competing interests. So I suspect that's why. Don't worry, they're going to make some gigantic ass contests for the Christmas slate. But that's kind of a function here of many competing priorities for time and eyeballs. That's why it's always good to keep tabs on some of the smaller sites that get a bit over their skis or don't pay attention to sizing contests, because it is the holidays. You never know where it's going to show up, but there will be overlay, significant usually in some cases, on some site, some sub-slate, or some sport. But if you're ready to jump in, usually during a situation like today and tomorrow, you can find like a 30% overlay just on something random. So keep that in mind. You have to be nimble, and it may not be something you play a lot, but it is definitely out there in these slates. All right, game number 2. We have the Denver Nuggets in Charlotte taking on the Hornets. 226.5 implied total here. That one felt a little bit light, but I just checked and it is correct. Denver favored by 8.5 or 9. Denver has a couple questionable players in Aaron Gordon and Murray because this is a back-to-back, as well as a 3 and 4. And Denver does play on, I'm pretty sure they were one of the Christmas teams. In any event, yes, Denver is one of the Christmas teams. In any event, last night, no starters played over 34 minutes. So they should be good to go in this one. On the Charlotte side, Mark Williams is doubtful. He's already missed 6 games with a back injury. I don't think he's going to play. But how do you feel about this one, Adam? A very fantasy-friendly matchup for the Nuggets.
Yeah, great matchup for Denver. Obviously, we will have to keep an eye on if they rest anyone on the back-to-back. Right now, have them all projected in, which does sort of limit how much Denver you're getting to, but it is still a good spot. Jokic showing up at 12% ownership along with Aaron Gordon. They look like probably the 2 easiest guys to get to. 6,100 power forward for Gordon. Jokic only 11-3 in a great matchup. Clearly on a 10-game slate, you expect there to be plenty of opportunity cost at center that makes it difficult to get there, but that salary has come down a little bit. Jamal Murray at 7,500. Pretty appealing tournament play, 4% projected ownership, 5% chance of being optimal, but you know the type of upside that Murray gives you. We just saw it last night with, I think, a 57 DraftKings point performance. Michael Porter Jr. is reasonably priced at 6,500. We have him going the most under-owned of anybody on Denver, 10% chance of being optimal at 7.5% ownership. So I think those 4 guys are all, I wouldn't say any of them are priorities. Jokic, clearly, if you find a way, like if value opens up or you just find some way to get to him, you could call him a priority in the sense that like you want as much as you can get, but none of them look like, highest owned guys or anything like that. But any of those 4 just look like good plays in a really good matchup against Charlotte.
All right. I'm switching backgrounds. I'm going to the virtual grand piano background. I see a lot of content people using this one. So I guess we all live in the same house. It's fun.
So I used that one for a while, and there were definitely people that actually thought that was my house.
There's a lot of us that have this house, hey, making 6 figures constantly here in the DFS streets, Adam.
Well, it's one of those things where now, like, people in chat would just be like, "Where is Adam?" Blah blah blah. And I'm like, "How dumb are you?" But when I started playing DFS, I thought everybody at RotoGrinders just had amazing views of their city.
Not realizing it was just a canvas background.
Had no idea.
Yeah, and then mine was of Washington D.C. and they didn't even bother not RotoGrinders, but the company we bought them from didn't even bother airbrushing out all the construction cranes and stuff that they were working on one of the monuments or whatever. It's like, couldn't you have picked a better picture? It's not like these cost you anything.
It needs to be realistic.
Yeah, well, there you go. It was definitely realistic there. But anyway,
every picture from my apartment facing one direction that I've posted for the last 2 years has massive cranes in it. It would clearly be fake if it doesn't.
That's true. I guess. All right, reality sets in. Anything you want to do here on the Hornets side in this matchup?
Clearly not as appealing a matchup for them. No real ownership coming in. Brandon Miller, 6% is the highest guy on DraftKings. Shooting guard, small forward. Good price tag. Good positional eligibility, reasonable price tag. Just going to land in some lineups as a last guy in. Terry Rozier, if you can get there, always interesting in tournaments at 3% owned. Just playing huge minutes and seeing increased production as you would expect without LaMelo Ball. But nothing that's really standing out there. I just finished running my first set of lineups for the day. From the Charlotte side, my highest owned guy would be 11% Brandon Miller. Other than that, 3% Hayward, 2% Rozier. So not getting the much there. On the Denver side, 15% Aaron Gordon. Very small amounts of the rest of the starters. Basically nothing from Houston, and 10% Joval from the Pels is really it. So from these first 2 games, I'm just not getting to a whole lot.
All right, that makes sense. I want to remind everybody, and I'm going to mention this one a couple times during the show, promo code HOLIDAY, all one word, HOLIDAY, gets you 25% off any stochastic package of your choice for 1 week or 1 month. I'm calling this out now because we have gone through a string of promos. We debated doing this one or not doing this one. I don't think you're going to see another one for a while, especially one not this aggressive, because we've gone through quite a few of them, celebrating the $1 million win, the usual Black Friday, Cyber Monday, all that fun stuff. So this is probably the last hurrah. So if you have not taken advantage of one of these other promotions, definitely get in on this one. That is promo code HOLIDAY, 25% off any 1 week or 1 month package. All righty, Adam, game number 3. We'll have to see if this one gets more interesting. We have the Orlando Magic in Indiana taking on the Pacers. This one is essentially a coin flip. 243 implied point total here. You have Jalen Suggs for Orlando, missed the last game with the sore wrist. Joe Ingles, it is the holiday season, but Ingles has missed the last 3 games with an ankle injury. Those guys are both questionable. On the Indiana side, Tyrese Halliburton questionable with an ankle, and then Jalen Smith missed the last game. He's got a knee and a heel issue, and then he missed the last game. He had played a game, and then he'd missed the 9 before that. So poor guy seems to be very brittle these days. Let's assume Halliburton is in. What are your high-level thoughts on this one?
Great matchup for Orlando. The problem is just that they're pretty much correctly priced. They don't look very appealing. The guy I'm getting to the most, unfortunately, is Wendell Carter Jr. again. I'm getting 17% of him right now. He's projected for 11% ownership. He's still only 5,400. It's a favorable matchup, fast-paced Indiana team. He played about 23 minutes in his first game back, including getting garbage time run, which I view as, if anything, a positive, just that it seems like they are trying to, get his conditioning back after missing, I think it was 20 games or something like that. And so it's not like they were necessarily being ultra cautious with his thumb injury. I think it's more so a conditioning thing. We saw him play 21 and a half minutes against Milwaukee, didn't close that game. So clearly you can't expect that many minutes for him, but at 5,400, there is still upside. And at some point he'll start playing a few more minutes as well. So still getting a bit of him, not going too crazy. I learned my lesson after playing 80% of him in his first game back. But other than that, 8% Banchero is the only other guy I'm really getting to. Fields at 15% there. I wouldn't mind getting a little bit more at 8,100. It is a really good matchup. He's clearly a good player, and you're happy to get there. But getting small amounts of Mo Wagner, Cole Anthony, Franz Wagner, Jalen Suggs, Carter and Banchero, the only two really standing out right now at their respective salaries. If Jalen Suggs were to miss this game, it does open the door for Cole Anthony to look much better. He is $6,400. He, in the game against Milwaukee, came off the bench, but played 32 and a half minutes. If you get no Jalen Suggs here, Anthony's playable one way or the other, but if you get no Jalen Suggs, he looks actively good.
All right, I'm dropping in the link. I'm sharing my screen here. These are the cool pages we have because people always ask, hey, do you have any deals going on right now? Well, we do right now. You can see at the top banner there, that was the 25% off holiday promo. But we, of course, have deals with quite a few of the DFS sites here. Easiest way to find them is to go under the Stochastic homepage, go under the deals tab. You can sort them by DFS site. You can sort them by sports wagering. You can look at a variety of different things, see what's going on for the discount for Stochastic. We've got the Stochastic avatar promotion here. Get that bad boy, download it, upload that to your DFS site of choice, finish top 3 in any tournament with at least 5,000 entries. That's top 3, first, second, or third, no chops. And you can get 1 month of your choice, any Stochastic package that includes either the NBA or the NFL Sims. That's a $200 value. Got to be rocking the avatar. All sorts of ways to be thrifty here within the DFS and sports wagering world. Make sure you get something when you're signing up to these sites. You ready for our next game, Adam?
Didn't get to the Indiana side.
Well, talk to us about Indiana here. How many people are truly exciting outside of Halliburton and Turner?
None of them. The highest projected ownership here is Nesmith, 5,100, 3% owned. My highest owned guy is Nesmith at 4%. 4% Healed, 3% Turner, 1% Brown and Toppin. Pace down spot, very, very, very good Orlando defense. And most importantly, from a DFS standpoint, just a relatively healthy team that is correctly priced across the board. As far as injuries go, you mentioned Halliburton being questionable. That clearly matters. Jalen Smith is questionable. That doesn't really matter too much. Miles Turner is not on the injury report anymore. So if we get Halliburton in, this team is very, very difficult to want to get to. If he were to sit, you do have a $4,300 Nemhard that would start to look better. TJ McConnell is only $5K. He would start to look better. So that is a big piece of injury news. But assuming he's in, Indiana looks pretty bad.
Alrighty, let's continue on here. Utah Jazz at Toronto Raptors. This one has a little bit more intrigue. Jazz are 6-point underdogs here. Keontae George is still out. You have Clarkson questionable to return with a thigh injury that has taken him out for the last 6 games. And then Talen Horton-Tucker missed the last game with a foot injury. So Clarkson and THT are questionable. George still listed as out. Toronto, pretty much everybody's healthy with the exception of Otto Porter Jr., who will never be healthy again. This is a back-to-back and a 3-4 for Toronto. They lost in Philadelphia last night, 121-111. As you saw, the Cameroonians battling each other. That would be Pascal Siakam and Joel Embiid. Looked like Embiid was going to have a bit of an off night, and Toronto may have snuck out a win after the first quarter. Nope. Philadelphia took care of business over the final 3 quarters. What do you like here from the Utah side heading up there north of the border into Canada?
Absolutely nothing if the questionable guys play. Clarkson's been out for a while, so pricing has adjusted for him being out. I mean, Colin Sexton's 7,900. If Clarkson's back, he is unplayable. If Clarkson's out, Sexton becomes viable, but still at that price, not any real priority. Horton-Tucker's up to 7K. Markkanen's at 8,700. This team has gotten really expensive and potentially is getting healthier. So assuming the questionable guys are in, I have pretty much nothing. I have 1% Walker Kessler. So does the field at 6,300, and that's it. If you were to start getting these guys ruled out, then things look a little bit better. But, you know, like I said, the prices have come up, and they're not going to be as shorthanded as they were the other day. Markkanen's not on the injury report. So, you know, if Clarkson's out, that's already been the case. Keontae George has been out for a while. So prices have adjusted for those two guys. Horton-Tucker would open up some minutes, but, you know, again, with pricing adjusting, like Chris Dunn's already 6,300. I mentioned Sexton at 7,900. Even if Horton-Tucker's out, I don't think it's opening up a ton that you really want. Like Baji's 5K, Fontecchio's 5,800. Like those guys all start to look marginally better, but I don't really think the injury report can break any way where Utah looks like a priority.
All right. Do you feel the same way about Toronto?
No, Toronto is actually a team I'm getting a ton of right now. Good matchup against Utah, not a good defensive team. And the field's getting here as well. 21% ownership coming into Dennis Schroeder. Only a $6,100 price tag for him. That looks good. Played 34 minutes last night. Probably could have played a little bit more down the stretch if the game were close. Not really sure what the closing lineup there would have been, but he's been getting good playing time. He produces well enough for this price tag. Fields at 21%. I would be about double that at 43%. I'm getting the 17% Anunoby. Field is at 8%. He's also 6,100, but has shooting guard, small forward eligibility. Pascal Siakam is still cheap at 7,900, power forward center, coming off another good game last night. He's projected for 11% ownership. I'm getting the 16. I have 14% Gary Trent right now at 8% owned, $4,700 point guard, shooting guard. Scotty Barnes showing up 13% for me. The field's actually at 21% on him. Point guard, small forward, 8,500. He does look very good. There are just always good plays in that price range. So I think it's likely that I'm just moving some of the Scotty Barnes exposure to other similar lower owned guys. But by all means, whatever Scotty Barnes you can get to is going to look very good. And then I'm getting smaller amounts of, Pirtle, Flynn, Achua. The Flynn and Achua pieces in particular probably just kind of go away by the time we get to lock because other stuff opens up. Flynn's only $3,400, but played 10 minutes last night, including garbage time. Like those guys are just going to go away. But Schroeder, Anunoby, Siakam, Trent, Barnes, Pirtle, these guys all, I'm getting double-digit exposure to all of them except Pirtle, and they all look good in this spot.
How amazing has Barnes been, considering he's essentially increased his fantasy production by like 20-25% on about the same minutes, like exactly the same minutes that he had per game in his first 2 seasons. This has just been one heck of a step forward by him.
Yeah, 1.3 DraftKings points per minute overall this year for him. He did start the year off hot, and I think has come back to earth a little bit, but overall has been very good. If you look in terms of just overall EPM, he right now is sitting sandwiched between Damian Lillard and Tyrese Maxey.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Now a lot of his value is made up on the defensive end. So like offensively, he's not comparable to those guys, but he's still been a positive offensively.
Yeah, just wild, just nuts. Anything else from this game?
No.
All righty. What else do we have on tap? We've got an interesting one, I guess. Detroit Pistons, nearly 10-point underdogs heading into Brooklyn, taking on the Nets. 232.5 projected point total here. Detroit has Jalen Duren listed as questionable. He has missed the last 7 games with an ankle injury. Killian Hayes is probable after missing the last game with an illness. On the Brooklyn side, really the only people there missing is Ben Simmons and Walker. This is a back-to-back and a 3-4 for Brooklyn. They lost to Denver last night, 122-117. You had Cam Thomas lead the way with 34 minutes. Spencer Dinwiddie played 33. Nobody else really crested over 31 minutes. Anything here from the Pistons?
No. Killian Hayes is probable. So last game we got Jaden Ivey as a very good mid-range value because Killian Hayes didn't play. We will need to keep an eye on the starting lineup, but Hayes had been starting over Ivy. Assuming Hayes is in the starting lineup, I don't have interest in getting to Ivy. If Ivy starts at 6K, then some interest. It's still not a very good matchup, though. Brooklyn, one of the slower teams in the league and one of the better, more efficient defensive teams. But, if Ivy is starting at 6K, he's playable. Off the bench, I think it's pretty tough. I'm getting 4% Cunningham, 2% Bogdanovich, 2% Stewart right now. Nothing standing out at all. No, the field isn't getting to any of this either. 4% Cunningham's the highest owned guy here. It's just a healthy team with a deep rotation and pretty much correct pricing.
Yeah, thankfully there are 19 other teams we can be looking at here. What about for the Nets?
Yeah,
kind
clearly
of
a better
boat.
better matchup for them. I'm getting to a lot of Nick Claxton, which I am certainly happy with here. $6,600 price tag, 12% ownership. I'm getting to 31% right now. I have no problem whatsoever with that. Good spot against Detroit. We don't know what the starting lineup will be. They went with Marvin Bagley at center last game, which would certainly make me like Claxton as much as I possibly can. If they move Stewart to the 5, it's not like I'm getting away from Claxton, but certainly would like as many minutes against Marvin Bagley as I can get. But one way or the other, it's just a good matchup against the Pistons. Happy to get there. I'm getting to 13% Bridges, 8% ownership to him, 7,400 small forward, power forward. Love getting to him in tournaments at modest ownership when I can in good matchups. We know the scoring upside that you get. Getting the 8% Dinwiddie, 5% Cameron Johnson, very small amounts of Cam Thomas and Day'Ron Sharpe, who was a huge part of tournaments last night off the bench, but not something you should be expecting him to replicate. But overall, it's a team that it's kind of similar to Toronto in that I'm getting to a lot of players. I'm not getting as much as I am Toronto, but they look good. Claxton in particular, I really like getting to.
I love this, Adam. It's happening for me now. John P says, EMac, nobody believes you have a piano. And then Roll Tide says, not going to lie, I thought that was EMac's house when I first saw it. So, no, this is the standard DFS tout house. This is like a starter house, when you're rolling in the big bucks, like one Adam Scherer. I got to do a rare combination. I got to hop on a show with Greg, and somehow the topic came up of, what would you do if you hit for the $1 million prize? And he said, of course, he was gonna rub it into Lindquist's face. And I said, well, the first person I'm going to reach out to is Adam, just so I can antagonize him, because he's had to listen to me for years, explain to people how you can be thrifty, put together a nice little bankroll, and not have to redeposit. I'm going to clear for the second year as long as I don't screw anything up over the next week. $20,000 in cash and prizes. The and prizes is key, Adam, because the Onyx tier has definitely helped with that.
I was actually complimenting you I was talking to Neil the other day and Josh, because I looked at my Roto tracker and was just looking at like how much I've made in large field tournaments and then how much I've given back by always like moving up in stakes, not winning immediately at high stakes, and just then realizing how much I gave back. And it's like I always do it. And I was just saying, if I just like had EMax discipline and just could play the same thing constantly, like I would have so much money right now and just be sitting around doing whatever I wanted. But instead, I always give back like 50% of what I win immediately.
Well, and now and then how much to the strip clubs? Right?
Well, right, yeah,
There is always
right.
that.
You're right. I go out to celebrate because I know I'm going to end up giving half of it back immediately, and so I get that out of the way first, and then go give back more.
Yeah, it happens. It happens. For me, it's kind of the game within the game. I more or less just do it now to prove that it can be done, because I like to help people out, and it gets tougher and tougher every year. I mean, as you see it at the upper stakes, it does at the lower stakes as well. So in any event, there we are. Steven,
yeah, been trying to win $1 million
you.
in a day for like 7 years instead of just accepting that I could just make $1 million by actually being smart with money.
It's the splash effect. You gotta have some fun. All righty. Let's see. We left off here with Brooklyn, I believe. Anything else on Brooklyn? Because now we've got a good one to talk about.
No, that sums it up for Brooklyn. Again, lots of Claxton right now, and Bridges looks like a very good tournament play to me as well.
All right. The Memphis Grizzlies, Atlanta Hawks, a near pick'em here. It is 238.5 projected point total. Memphis will be out without, once again, Luke Kennard, Derrick Rose, and Marcus Smart. No biggie there, but they, of course, have the face of the franchise back there in Ja Morant. Atlanta, Jalen Johnson getting close to a return, should be back probably right after Christmas. You have DeAndre Hunter missed the last game. He's been managing a sore knee for quite some time, so he's going to be a game time decision again tonight. It sounds like for Atlanta, this is a back-to-back and a 3-4. They lost in Miami last night, 122-113. We saw Sadiq Bey and Trae Young each play 40 minutes, and then the next pair of DeJounte Murray and Bogdan Bogdanovic played 35 and 34 minutes. So we gave the starters a pretty healthy amount of minutes here. How do you want to approach this game tonight, Adam? Let's talk about the Memphis side first, because Ja's got some fresh legs and not a really good defense that he'll be facing tonight.
Yeah, good spot for Memphis. Atlanta top 5 in pace this year. They're one of the least efficient defenses, bottom 5 in adjusted defensive rating. The problem is just with Ja coming back, a lot of the pricing here kind of became difficult to get to. Vince Williams is the guy I'm getting the most right now at 28%. Clearly not the most exciting guy you can get to from Memphis. Overall this season, 0.79 DraftKings points per minute, but he is getting substantial minutes. He is only 5,200 small forward eligible. He's the type of guy that as more value opens up, my exposure to him probably comes down. But with the way the slate looks right now, 28% makes sense to me, just in the sense that it's opening stuff up. Getting the 16% Jaren Jackson at 7,800. That price tag has dropped a bit. Power forward center. He's only getting 4% ownership right now, so I am taking a pretty nice stand there. Desmond Bane's getting 13% ownership. I have 14. He's come down to 8,300. Shooting guard, small forward eligible. So we did see DraftKings pretty quickly start dropping these prices with Morant back, which is nice to see. So Williams, Jackson, Bane, the guys I'm really getting to. Then it's just small amounts of pretty much every other body on Memphis. Zaire Williams, John Conchar, Aldama, Tillman, Diambo, all showing up between 1% and 4% for me. Those are all guys that, again, probably just disappear for the most part as the day goes on. John Morant, 9,700. I'm getting 3% of him right now. He's projected for 3% ownership. I'm happy with whatever I can get to. He played another 34 and a half minutes last game. Clearly not on any sort of minutes restriction. He's playing a lot. It's just that he is relatively expensive, and there's never a shortage of good players in the 10K range, and there's never a shortage of good point guard only guys. So that makes it difficult to truly prioritize him, but very good spot, and would not be upset if I started getting more of him as the day goes on.
Yeah. The Vince Williams 13% optimal percentage. Just, it's like, really? There are 20 teams in this player pool. Yeah. How are we ending up with this guy? Small forward only there on DK. So interesting. How do you feel about Trae Young coming off a heavy workload?
Yeah, I'm pretty much around the field on him. He's projected for 6% ownership at 9,800, so it's basically the same price tag as Trae. I'm getting 7%. I would have no issue if I flip-flop those and had 7% Morant, 3% Trae. One thing that I think will be interesting to pay attention to from a matchup standpoint in general with Memphis is that they've been in the middle of the pack in pace so far this season, but now you have Ja back. I would expect them to play faster than they have to date. I'm not doing anything to adjust for that. I don't think that that's going to catch, Vegas off guard or something. I think that it's baked in already probably, but it will be something just to pay attention to. Does Memphis actually start playing at a faster pace? But Young would be my highest owned guy right now at 7%, getting to 7% Bay as well. 4% Okongwu, 2% Hunter, 1% Bogdanovich. Nothing that really stands out here as a priority. We will need to keep an eye on DeAndre Hunter's status, though. He missed yesterday's game. He was downgraded late in the day, missed the game. They ended up going to Garrison Matthews as the starter. He played 18.5 minutes. We got 25.5 from Okongwu off the bench, 27.7 from Capella. So they didn't overlap as much as they had been in previous games. Patty Mills was in the rotation. Sadiq Bey played 40 minutes. But if Hunter is out, Bogdanovich played 35 off the bench. If Hunter is out, $6,700 Bogdanovich, $5,700 power forward eligible Okongwu, $6,100 Sadiq Bey, all become better plays than they currently are.
Did you say Patty Mills?
Yep.
He's in the league still? How have I missed this?
He played 12 minutes last night.
I thought he was just chilling in Australia or something again. Now I gotta look and see. How much has he played? Okay, well I don't feel as bad. He played one game in November. He's played 4 games in December. He has played 47 total minutes this season. Okay, I will excuse myself for not having noticed he was still in the league. But,
did you know that they also have Wesley Matthews?
I did notice that because I saw the Garrison and Wesley Matthews combo on the roster. I'm like, wait, what? Wesley's still in the league? It's been a hot minute since he's been relevant as well. Alrighty, that was enough fun.
Yeah, there have been a couple of times where like the Hawks release their starting lineup with somebody out, and it'll be either Wesley Matthews or Garrison. And obviously their last names are spelled differently, but it's still like, okay, did the site misspell a name, or are they talking about the one that's actually starting?
Or did the beat reporter not get it right and they heard, Matthews is starting.
Right, exactly.
they got it wrong. So good times. Alrighty, last time I'm going to mention this, but we do have Underdog Fantasy here. Here's the landing page for it. I've already dropped that into chat, but we do have all landing pages for all of our different deal sites. You can find under the deals page, you can go on the sites. You can quickly find out what is the best deal, what is the promo code. Heck, we even have it set up for links that you can go through. It also tells you what the sites offer as well as what states that they operate in. It's a nice spot to catch all of this. Fun things about Underdog Sports, they have the best ball contests. So they do those for both the season long. They do it for playoffs. They also have best ball drafts. I don't know that best ball is really the right way to say it, but drafts for Sunday only football. They're battle royales. You've got all sorts of pick'em contests over there. They also offer what they call scorchers on their pick'em. So they'll give somebody a double and it'll 1.5x or 1.75x or whatever it might be, your overarching prop card that you put together, because it'll be a longer shot for someone to get a double, triple double, etc. So a lot of fun. Check that out. It is all things that you need for DFS as well as fantasy sports. You can double your first deposit up to $100. Those funds do come out of your account immediately. Use the promo code AWESEMO or come in and just click the link here on the claim now. Alrighty, Adam, let's continue along because we've got about 20 more minutes and we've got quite a few games left. 4 games left. We're still on good time here. Cleveland in Chicago. Cleveland favored by 4, which I wonder if I wrote that backwards. That seems a little bit off, but Garland and Mobley are obviously out for the foreseeable future. Mitchell has missed the last 2 games with an illness. He's already been ruled out. And then Sam Merrill dealing with a sore wrist after he splashed all of those 3-pointers. This is a 3-4 for both teams, though neither played last night. You have Chicago mostly healthy with the exception of Zach Attack, who is out for a couple more weeks here. How are you feeling about Cleveland? Is it another Craig Porter Jr. night?
Yeah, unfortunately, I guess. Not to the extent that it has been the last 2. His salary did jump to $5,700. He's point guard only. He's pulling 47% ownership on DraftKings. 20% chance of being optimal. I'm getting to 53%, so still a bit over the field there. It's just that this team is still very shorthanded in terms of creators, ball handlers, and Craig Porter's one of the only ones they have. It's him and Karis LeVert, and that's it. So it's just difficult for him not to have opportunities here. We saw him get 29 minutes in the game against the Pels. He had played, I think, 25 in the game before that. So the playing time hasn't been quite as solidified as maybe we hoped it would be, but still, given his role and price, still looks like a good play. Max Strus is getting 29% ownership right now. I'm getting about half of that. And then Sam Merrill is getting 19%. I'm getting about 1.5 that. I have 32% Merrill. I have no confidence in Merrill, but Merrill's he's going to keep being the same play. Assuming he's in at 4,500, this guy is just a shooter. And the Cavs need scoring, so he's going to get opportunities to go out there and shoot threes. If he makes them, you saw the ceiling 2 games ago. If he misses them, you saw what he did last game prior to leaving with the injury, where he had 1 fantasy point. Like, there is no floor on this guy, but it's the type of player that when he's going to be really popular, I tend to not really want to get there unless I don't have any real other choices. 19% ownership, given that if he is healthy, he's likely playing mid-20s in minutes. I don't mind taking shots on him, especially if somebody like Max Strus is going to pull a ton of ownership at 6,200. Strus is similar in that he's not doing a whole lot other than hopefully making shots. The playing time is more solidified for him, but they're similar players, just differently priced because Strus is the better player and the minutes are safer, but kind of similar range of outcomes in that Strus doesn't have much of a floor either. So it is interesting to me that I'm kind of flip-flopping their ownerships. Don't feel good at all about 30% Merrill, but at 19% owned, I don't mind it. Strus looks like a useful piece, shooting guard, small forward at 6,200. I'm just not getting to the field on him right now. That's pretty much all I'm getting to from the Cleveland side. 5% Niang, 1% Allen. Nothing else really standing out there other than those 3. Karis LeVert sitting at 6,600. I wouldn't mind getting the more of him just because, like I said, you pretty much only have him and Porter as far as shot creators, but LeVert's playing time just hasn't been there. We've seen him essentially capped at 28 minutes. Last game, he only played 22 and a half. 6,600 is a pretty tough price tag to get to given that information.
Yeah, he is enigmatic, to borrow a lofty phrase. LeVert just never quite breaks through. And then he has these once a month spike games. I mean, He's done this for the last 5 years, and then there's injury opportunities or a clear path to playing time, and 34 minutes on the table for him, and it's just never quite comes to fruition. Really interesting. Good times. I've moved on to my holiday background here, so got to get in the spirit of the festive moment. I forgot I had uploaded one of these. We did a virtual holiday lunch on Thursday for my team. We're in 6 different states, so we said, hey, let's all order lunch at the same time. Our boss will pay for it, and then we each came in with the holiday background and had some fun. Very exciting stuff. Yeah, I live a wild life, Adam. 3 to go here. We have the Los Angeles.
Hang on. I didn't do the Bulls.
Sorry.
There's not a lot to say there. Right now, Dallin Terry is my highest owned guy at 11%. That just isn't going to hold by lock. There's way too many questionable guys on a 10-game slate for a guy projected for 12 fantasy points to actually end up in my lineups. So I think we can pretty safely ignore that. As far as the real players go, 9% DeRozan. He's only getting 2% ownership. Small forward, power forward, 8,400. Sure. Like, it's not a good matchup, but if I'm getting a little bit more than the field on DeRozan, it's not like I'm going to be upset about that. Same can be said for Kobe White at 8,200 or Vooch at 81. All of these guys are projected for 1 to 2% ownership. If you're using them here and there as contrarian plays, fine, but nothing that stands out. Drummond's actually projected for the most ownership right now at about 8%. He's showing up 5% of the time for me. Clearly the ceiling is there. I mean, we just saw what he did last game. Granted, that was on the back of, I think, 5 steals and 2 blocks or something. You're not expecting that to happen very often. But he's another one where that ownership probably just comes down by lock because enough other stuff opens up.
Yeah, some of that other stuff opening up looks like it's going to be from our next game here. We've got Davis, LeBron, and Rui all listed as questionable. This is a 3 and 4 for the Lakers, though they did not play last night. They do take on the Boston Celtics on Christmas. It would not be a shock to see one or both of their stars somehow get the night off tonight. Would also not be a complete surprise if they both played. We're going to have to wait and see on that one. Any read here for the Lakers? The only person missing for the Thunder is Josh Giddey. I believe he's dealing with an ankle injury.
Yeah, no real read for me. I just assume that these guys are playing until I hear otherwise. And if, using that assumption, nothing looks very good. I'm getting to 1% Anthony Davis right now. I don't have any LeBron. It goes without saying, if you're building lineups and you can get to them and you want to get to them, they're good, but they just don't stand out. They're a little bit more expensive than that John Morant, Trae Young range. I'm paying down a lot at the forward positions today as well to get up to, you have Jokic on the slate, for example. So it's just tough to get to them right now. 5% ownership coming into Davis, 2% to LeBron, 7% chance of being optimal for Davis, 5% for LeBron. Perfectly fine contrarian plays if you can get there, but difficult to do. Nothing else from this team looks good if both of those guys are in. And realistically, if one of them is out, still probably nothing looks good outside of whichever one is in.
Yeah, we're just the wait and see approach.
Austin Reeves is up to 8,200. D'Angelo Russell's at 7,600. I'm good. Ruiz,
yeah, that's
6K.
Almost like feels a little bit preemptive. Like, hey, there's a good chance these guys could sit, kind of thing. Maybe.
Yeah, but like you would need both of them to be out to play like an $8,200 Reeves, and even then it would kind of just be like, yeah, he looks fine. I do think it's worth pointing out on FanDuel they look better. 21% ownership, 19% chance of being optimal to Davis. 15% ownership, 16% chance of being optimal to LeBron on FanDuel. So if you're just a big Lakers fan and you just want to play Davis/LeBron today, I would register FanDuel. It's a lot easier to do it there than DraftKings.
How about the Thunder here? You have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander that has bumped up his production by about 10% over last year when he hit 50 fantasy points per game for the first time. He has been very stellar. Giddey being out isn't a huge change for SGA, but it does give him a little bit more opportunity for the ball in his hands and a few more rebounds from the backcourt there. How do you feel about the Thunder?
I'm getting to quite a bit of this team. Lou Dort right now, one of my highest owned guys at 35%. He's getting 22% ownership, and it's basically Vince Williams with a different name on a different team as far as why he's showing up in lineups. He's just a cheap small forward. It's a weak position. Paying down to these guys and hoping for the best is opening up really good things elsewhere in my lineups. So again, I'm not excited about 35% Lou Dort, but I understand why it's happening. I don't have any problem with it. As more stuff opens up today, that probably comes down because there's just going to be other guys that look just like Lou Dort. Jalen Williams, the good one, is showing up 20% for me. Fields at 20%. He's 6,400 small forward, power forward. Certainly happy to get there. Chet showing up 17%. Fields at 17%, 7,600 center only on DraftKings. Clearly a very good, very high upside player. Cason Wallace is showing up 13% for me. 4,100 shooting guard. Fields at 21%. So I'm getting him, but not at the same rate as the field. I think that he looks perfectly fine from a value standpoint. He started the second half in place of Josh Giddey last game. But the problem here is just that OKC can run very deep rotations outside of their main guys. Even in that second half, Wallace played about like 11, 12 minutes. Clearly he could play more, but it's also just possible he starts this game and plays 24 minutes. And he's a terrible point per minute guy. 0.65 DraftKings points per minute for the season. And keep in mind, a lot of those minutes are not playing alongside Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and the starters. So probably only gets worse, if anything. So it's a value piece that makes sense. But right now, I'm not getting to the field. I'm not particularly concerned about it. If Cason Wallace has a huge game that I can't make up somewhere else, then so be it. I'm getting to 13% Kenrich Williams. Right now, the field is at 30%. He's 3,500. Same kind of thing. Played 18 minutes last game, more in the second half with Giddey out than in the first half. I expect he probably plays something similar to that today. Right now, he looks like a useful piece just because we don't have a lot of value. That, for one, probably changes. And for two, I don't need to play a 30% owned guy that is going to play like 18 minutes on average at the same rate as the field. So I'm about half the field there also. Getting to 8% Isaiah Joe, only 5% Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He's 13% owned. I would love to be getting more of that. He is great, like you said, over 1.5 fantasy points per minute. He plays big minutes. He is a little bit more expensive than Jai. He's a little bit more expensive than Young. I'm kind of just having trouble getting to this price range in general, I think. And maybe that is because I'm not playing a lot of Cason Wallace and Kenrich Williams, and that's kind of what you would need to do right now. So as things open up throughout the day, maybe I do start getting some more Shai. Certainly would like to. He looks good. And then, again, just getting small amounts of the other Jalen Williams, Aaron Wiggins, Ousmane Dieng. That stuff all is going to go away by lock.
All righty. The lock of the year, the final lock of the year is promo code HOLIDAY. I've got that on the screen here. 25% off any 1 week or 1 month package. If you've not yet subscribed to Stochastic, you'll definitely want to check that out. Also have a discount on Odd Shopper. We've changed the pricing there. It's $49.95 per month. It's $14.95 per week. But you can get 33% off your first week or month with the promo code GIFT. Over there, we now have the access to all of the prognosticators Discord channels. We have a bunch of other cool tools that have been set up, and it does support all of the pick'em sites. So even if you are in a state that does not have sports wagering, if you've got the pick'em sites, you are able to enjoy Odd Shoppers doing the heavy lifting for you there. We've got some shows coming up after us here, Adam. We have at 6 o'clock tonight, for those of you that are into basketball, we have the NBA Live Before Lock. At 3:30, we have NFL Live Before Lock for the 2-game Saturday slate. I dropped the link into chat already. It's also on the homepage to the free article breaking down the entire player pool for the Saturday games. We also have at 1 o'clock another NFL show, Outside the Box. So we have you guys covered. But appreciate it if you would hit the like button or subscribe here. We are trying to get to 100,000 subscribers on the Stochastic YouTube channel. Portland at Golden State. It looks like the only news for Portland is Shaedon Sharpe will be out. On the Golden State side, this is a back-to-back for them. They beat Washington last night. They do play on Christmas. Last night, no starters played over 29 minutes. Andrew Wiggins was out. He is questionable again today. What do you like here from the Portland side? We saw this game, this matchup, earlier this week? And it was Monday or Tuesday's matchup.
I don't remember. But yeah, Simons, I'm getting the Simons as usual. Not as much as I typically have. He's pulling 11% ownership, 8K, point guard, shooting guard, 9% chance of being optimal. 15% of him for me. Jabari Walker at 4K, flat power forward, pulling 13% ownership, 14% chance of being optimal. Getting to 12% there, so I'm even with the field. Just looks like a decent value piece, at least right now. Certainly could go away as we get more stuff opening up. Those are the only two guys that I'm getting double-digit exposure to. The field is also at 10% on DeAndre Ayton at 6,900. I'm about half that at 5%. No reason. It's not like I'm looking at this saying like I don't want DeAndre Ayton. It's just how it worked out. If you're getting a little bit more, that would certainly be fine. And then just kind of mixing in a little bit of Thibault, Grant, Kamara. Clearly, Thibault and Kamara, not exciting at all. It just is a function of not having a lot of value right now. The field's actually getting to 10% Thibault. I'm not quite there. Probably just lowers as the day goes on as well. But Jeremy Grant, 7,400, 2% owned. If you can get there, great. He's been playing big minutes, but it is difficult to pay that price tag, I think. So to me, it's Simons as the guy that I probably end up with the most of here. If you're getting to some DeAndre Ayton, I think that makes sense as well. And then right now, Jabari Walker looks like a pretty good value play, but that could certainly fall off as the day goes on. On the Golden State side, we need more information. They're on the back-to-back. We don't know if they're going to rest anybody, but we also don't know the status of Wiggins, who missed yesterday's game. Podziemski was questionable yesterday, but did play. So we don't know, is he going to play the back-to-back? Trace Jackson-Davis had another very good game yesterday. He had played well, gotten minutes 2 games ago, and actually played overtime over Kevon Looney or anybody else. Yesterday, Looney started both halves, but only played one stint in each half. Played 4 minutes and 40 seconds to open the game. Played 6 minutes and 40 seconds to open the second half. Trace Jackson-Davis ended up playing 24 and a half minutes. He is only 5K, power forward eligible on DraftKings. If Wiggins is in, I think it's still difficult to do much with Jackson-Davis other than just pay attention to what Golden State's rotations look like. But he was playing alongside Dario Saric last night. So if Wiggins is out, we've seen that they're willing to do that, and you can have Saric soak up some of the Wiggins, essentially Saric soaking up Wiggins minutes with Trace Jackson-Davis playing the 5. If Wiggins is out, a 5K Jackson-Davis at the very least becomes playable, if not, a real priority.
I was just looking to see if they have any wagers posted here on Odd Shopper for Kevon Looney, because if he keeps playing like this and the sites don't quite catch up to it, looking at some of his unders, if you can get like a 10.5 PRA or something like that, might be worthwhile.
For Jackson-Davis?
No, for Kevon Looney.
Yeah, gotcha. If he's just going to play 12 minutes or whatever.
Right. And these are the ways, right? It's like immediately Adam's like, hey, let's go for some overs, right? That we want to root for good things. you got to look at the unders too, because
Yeah.
the sites have been pushing them up a little higher and then juicing them because they know that we want to root for good things. So you've got to start looking for some of the other oddities. And if you put that lens on, you are able to find things like you search out like the Fred VanVleet from last night, some of the early Steph Curry's, the first couple games, Draymond was not there. He had a 43.5 PRA, and you wanted to hit the unders on those and look at different mixes and rotations and things like that. So it's not fun to root for because you literally have to wait till the very end of the game before it comes to fruition. But that is where the value is. And if we go to Odd Chopper, I'll see if there's any bets posted here, but you'll see what I mean.
I've been using it more lately, and I don't know the actual percentage of unders that I'm betting, but it is probably like 90%. And it's not fun to sweat, but it is fun at the end of the night to just look and be like, oh, cool, I made money. And it's nice to look at my tracker and see that I've made like 10 grand in December. Like that makes up for the not fun part of rooting for unders.
Yeah, and that's Greg has just been hitting up and down the board, mostly unders and just betting stuff, and he's been sharing his screenshots as well for his tracker, and I think he's up like 25K or something like that. I've seen. So I'm just sharing the screen real quick. This is Odd Chopper. It geolocates me to being in Florida, so I usually pick New York or New Jersey to get what I want. But you can see that it pops up. You can sort by leagues. It gives you can click on any player. It lists all of the different books from left to right, showing you the best wager. So like this one here, minus 170. Wow, that's worse than a plus 108. But you can see that this is under 4.5 shots on goal, whereas Pinnacle is under 3.5 shots on goal. So it helps you understand the different numbers here. You can quickly sort this, by, let's do NBA. We can do player props. And then I think it'll keep me here in Florida, in New Jersey, New York, not anywhere, but that's what's on the screen. But you can see, look at all these unders that are appearing. So we rate this out on the expected value. So that means the difference in the line by looking at the true odds. So for this one, Chet Holmgren rebounds under 8.5. True odds say it's minus 102. DraftKings is giving you plus money. So that imbalance there creates just 8% implied value. You can then see that, hey, if I'm not on DraftKings, but I want to bet it and I'm on FanDuel, you're actually losing 2% because FanDuel has a minus 106 where DraftKings has a plus 114. That's 2% directly off your ROI. That's the margins we're looking at here for sports wagering. Don't screw up by picking the wrong book or a punitive book. But you can see the vast majority of these end up being unders. This is a market-based approach. The projected true odds and the probability of the win are coming off BetPro, which is essentially the same engine that sets up all of our DFS player projections. So why not use that exhaust output to create the sports wagering model here? But you can see that it's interesting, and you can play around and just look at different things. You can sort just on players. If you want to see just PRA or a different wagering type, you can click on that, and then you can see it and sort, pop other things up, etc. So it's very, very, very powerful tool. Again, $14.95 per month, per week, $49.95 per month, and then promo code GIFT gets you 33% off there. But very, very powerful tool. All right, Adam, one last game here. San Antonio Spurs at the Dallas Mavericks. Spurs mostly healthy. Wemby didn't play a ton of minutes, if I remember correctly, after he came off his rest game in Milwaukee. Spurs are 7-point underdogs. Mavericks are for sure going to be without Green, Irving, Lively, and Kleber. Those guys have missed like 2 weeks or more now. Doncic missed the last game with the thigh issue. Exum missed the last game, which was last night, with a lower leg issue. It's a back-to-back and a 3-4. This team was just absolutely destroyed by Houston last night. But we did see some deep reserves, some understudies of the understudies getting some minutes and production last night. Read the tea leaves. Let's just start with the Mavericks side first. Let's assume Luka is out again.
I mean, if we assume Luka's out, then we're just.
Do you want to go anywhere, or do you think everything implodes like it did last night?
Potentially. I mean, you also have Exum, which matters. Like if Luka's out, then you're in the situation again where there's a lot of opportunities available. They're still not short on bodies. But like Tim Hardaway, 7K is a lot more expensive than last night, but still has a ceiling. Everybody's going to look better if Luka's out, but it also matters if Exum is in or out, because clearly he's going to play a big role if Luka's out. If Luka's out and Exum is in, Exum looks great at 6,300 point guard, small forward. He's been a fantasy point per minute guy this year anyway, and would take on a bigger role without Luka. If they're both out, then again, you're back to yesterday, except for you are in a much better matchup against San Antonio than you had against Houston. Everybody is more expensive. So if they're both out, like Hardaway, Jones, Grant Williams, Jaden Hardy, all look good, but not as good as they did yesterday.
All right.
Right now, though, I have Luka and Exum in. And
run it down from that perspective.
Yeah. Luka's getting 24% ownership right now. I'm getting 27%. He's the pay up option I have the most of. He's playing huge minutes without Kyrie. I assume if he's in, he's just in and playing upper 30s, low 40s as usual. He looks great matchup, all of that. I'm getting to 23% Grant Williams right now. Fields at 12%. 5,100 power forward. Again, probably just lose some of that as we get more value on the day. It seems like if you are a forward and around 5K and remotely playable, I am playing you like 20+% of the time. So that probably all just sort of balances out, but he's just another Lou Dort, Vince Williams type guy. Other than that, I'm not really getting anything. 2% Derek Jones, 1% Keith, which disappears for sure. 1% Hardaway, but Luka clearly looks like the priority here, assuming that he is in. And again, if Luka is out and Exum is in, Exum's probably the best play on this team.
Yeah, and then and just so people didn't realize how bad it was, the Mavs scored 39 points in the first half. They put up 36 in the fourth quarter, but just 39 in the first half. They were down by 20. It was an absolute, just a dumpster fire. Or I guess they were down. What is it? Yeah, by about 20, and then got really bad in the third quarter. There went down by almost 30. So it was a lost game at that point, because I was looking at that box score earlier this morning. Adam, I'm almost assuredly have never heard of who is it? Oliver Maxence Prosper. Never heard of him.
He's been in the rotation, sort of, but not really.
Dexter Dennis. Literally, that's a made-up name.
That he was like the only active guy that wasn't playing at all until actual garbage time.
Yeah, that was wild. And then, of course, Rashawn Holmes finally has a game when nobody's really on him at all. But in 22 minutes, he had 16, 8, and 1. So this was an outlier game.
In the large field tournament, there was somebody that clearly had just built their lineups with the assumption that this game just went to absolute shit. And he was just, all over the place with combinations of like Prosper, Holmes, Lawson. He had Cam Whitmore from the Houston side. And he put, I think, like 5 teams in the top 10. But I still got a good laugh. He didn't get first place. And so this guy has probably just like been approaching games like this way for a while and never getting the blowout that he really wants. And then he finally gets it and still doesn't actually get the 100K.
Oh, I see Obi-Wan's in chat. Howdy. We got Marcus Ambrose. We got Humboldt. We got Honey Badger, JoJo, Stephen Leibowitz, a lot of the regulars here. And then King puts it in. King one time puts it in, says, I looked yesterday. I've deposited $27,400 lifetime to profit $1.7 million since 2012. That, Adam, is some serious discipline. That goes way beyond what I've done.
Yeah, that is I wish I had that discipline.
Not bad. You look at that long time horizon, everybody's like, slow and steady wins the race. It's like it adds up. Look at that decade of gaming there, and he's up to just cleared $1.7 million. That's damn impressive.
I mean, the reason that DFS is such a powerful way to make money is compound interest. But then if you're an idiot like me, and instead of just relying on compound interest to make money, you just increase stakes constantly, it goes away. It doesn't work that way.
Oh, I tried that one, and that's when I had to recalibrate it. I forget if it was 2015, 16, 17, somewhere around there. I was up like 80 grand, and I was like, okay, let's go. This was right around the time Fantasy Cruncher came into being, and I didn't have it. Then I was basically building 3 lineups a night, and I just increased my volume and cash games and NBA and all that. I just got bitch slapped. I ended up going that year where I'd been up 80K at one point. I ended up losing like 20, 25K for the year. And I just said, I am not doing this again. I want this to be fun. I want this to be enjoyable. You just feel like shit. Right. And I know that's how the losing streaks go. I mean, even when I'm losing, like the last week, I was wagering like a drunken sailor, and I've lost like $1,000 after I had a hot streak and picked up $3,000 in the 2 weeks before. And it's just like, well, that doesn't feel good. I can only imagine the swings you have to go through. So,
well, and then for me, like every additional time I do it, it just feels worse because it's like I just don't learn. So, like the first time you do it, like you said, it's like, oh, well, that was a learning experience. And then the second, third, fourth, fifth time, it's like, okay, you're just an idiot.
Yeah, and then worst is if it gets personal and you're just like, screw it, I'm better than this, and you keep betting. It's like, just. If you or anybody you know has a gambling issue, please call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. But there we go. Anything else on our final game here?
Yeah, the San Antonio side is I'm getting a lot of it in terms of players. It is a good matchup. Dallas doesn't exactly play defense. Jeremy Sohan's showing up the most for me right now, 17%. He's the most popular guy for the field at 17 to 18%. So I'm right in line with that. I'm also getting the 15% Branham, 13% Vassell, 10% Collins. No problem with any of those. To me, the most interesting thing here is what the hell to do with Wemby. He played 22 minutes last game. He had missed the previous game with an ankle injury. He was probable for last game. There was nothing suggesting that this was like an actual issue long-term or anything.
Like a designed break with that Milwaukee one. It was just like, hey, we're going to give him a day off here. That's
right.
what it felt like.
There was nothing suggesting that like he was going to be limited or you should expect him to be limited, but he played 22 minutes. That's obviously not sustainable, but it's still scary because the guy's $9,200. And if he's live to just play 22 minutes at a whim, that's a real problem. The flip side, though, is that he has been so productive when he's playing without Zach Collins on the floor. He's got a good matchup here. He's getting 3% ownership at 9,200. I kind of just want to go back to the well and play a bunch of Wemby because if he just plays 30-plus minutes, the guy's like a 1.7 fantasy point per minute guy at center. Even if you regress that a little bit, he's 1.45 overall fantasy points per minute overall for the season. Like call it 1.6 at 3% owned against Dallas at power forward. Like he has the potential to be the best player on the slate, but it's also really scary when you just saw him play 22 minutes essentially by design.
All righty. That's going to do it. Adam, I kept you around for 10 extra minutes on a holiday weekend. My apologies, but hey, at least we don't have an 11th game. So reminder, that last game, the standalone 10 p.m. outpost, DK and FanDuel have taken that off their slates. So the game's last game will tip off at 8:30 tonight. So we have more of a consolidated slate. We do have NBA live before lock. That will be at 6 o'clock. We've got the NFL live before lock going at 3:30 today. That is to cover the 2-game Saturday slate. And then we have a couple other football shows that will be appearing on this channel, plus all sorts of videos on demand over there on OddsShopper, breaking down a variety of NFL and college bowl game wagering. With that, you guys, go ahead, Adam.
Jalen Suggs was just ruled out. Gary Harris starting in his place. Joe Ingles also out. So Cole Anthony looks very good now.
There we go. Words of wisdom from Adam Scherer. You can follow him on Twitter at ShipMyMoneyDFS. I am at EMac DFS. And of course, it is stochastic_COM. With that, gamers, good luck.